Hi there, and welcome to the KnitFi podcast. Today, I'm casting on my first of 24 knits in 2024. This is episode 2, where I'll talk about the last unicorn sweater and some new furniture for my craft space. Last week, I introduced the last unicorn sweater as my first make of the year. This pattern choice came about because we were browsing at Christie's and my daughter saw the neon yarns. She asked me to make her a unicorn, but in an effort to talk her out of yet another stuffy, I offered her a sweater. She was so excited that she'd be able to wear it to school and show her friends what her mom made that I just couldn't resist. I did purchase the pattern from Etsy, but here you can see me logging the project into my Ravelry. One of the things I want to get better at this year is logging my projects and the time it takes me to make things. It struck me late last year that I really don't know how long it would take me to knit a sweater in fingering weight yarn. At the time of this recording, January 13th, I've already gotten through most of the body and I'm almost done. I'm marking here that my overall rating is 4 stars because it's an excellent idea, but the clarity rating is ranked at 3 stars because for a beginner pattern, I would have hoped that things were a little more clear about how measurements were decided. And I'll show you more about that later. I've also posted a little bit on Instagram about this sweater, and I had a few issues trying to get the photo to upload. Of course, once the photo got uploaded, I had 2 of them, so I had to fix that. One of the most meditative parts of knitting for me is winding yarn, because it's almost always the same process. Here I'm using an Amish Swift that I got for Christmas a few years ago, and a big heavy-duty yarn winder or ball winder that I got off of Amazon. The clamp itself is steel, so it holds on really well to the table. And the cone part is plastic and has a 1.5 inch diameter. This makes for some really good cakes. I also like to rewind yarn after it's been caked the first time to make sure that I have a nice, loose, and fluffy cake that's easier to use without getting myself in a yarn barf situation. When I cast on, I used my ChowGoo interchangeables with the Swiv 360 cables. Somehow they're even better than the red cables my set originally came with. It's just as flexible and doesn't hold any curl, but with the red cables I would have issues with the needle tip coming undone if I only finger tightened. The Swiv 360 spin a little more freely, reducing that issue pretty significantly. I do have one issue on the threading of one side of the cable where the needle doesn't always go all the way in. I'm sure that if I reached out to the company or even asked the yarn store, I'd be able to get a replacement, but it works in the right conditions and doesn't bother me enough to be without my cable while the issue gets resolved. I tried using the linked cast-on video in the pattern, but I was struggling with the instructions. I didn't get anything near resembling the cast-on in the video, and I'm usually pretty good at following those. After I finished recording, I ended up ripping it out and doing what I learned as the ribbed cable cast-on. After getting the cast-on and the ribbing, we did a test fit to make sure the cast-on I used was stretchy enough. Right after ribbing is the rainbow, and then the color work begins. I thought it was a bit odd that it increases so drastically just after the rainbow, and there are no increases in the yoke itself, but I decided to go along with it and see how it came out. So far, so good. There was also no short row shaping before the yoke. That's okay with me, but I do wonder if we'll have a hard time knowing which is the front of the sweater. I'll have to add a tag or something. Here I'm using a technique that I found online when I first tried color work. It's sort of like 2-finger flicking, but there are considerations to take for color dominance and trapping yarn. I'm not incredibly invested in color dominance here, so I'm just trying to keep my tension even, not twist stitches, and get the pattern right. When reading the pattern, you do the color chart from the bottom to the top. Because this is a top-down sweater, the unicorn is upside down. There's also a variation to make it a horse, which is no horn. The pattern at this point was fairly straightforward and the sizing is correct even though I didn't check gauge exactly. The designer accommodates for length issues with this heart chart or a star chart and makes them, if needed in the pattern, to achieve expected length in the yoke. I did the heart chart to give a little extra room. After the heart chart, I divided the body and the arms. Again, this is very straightforward in the instructions and there isn't any more shaping in the body, so I'll be going straight down to the hem. The sleeve holes look like they'll be plenty roomy and have space for a t-shirt or other sleeved shirt underneath, though I really don't think that'll be necessary. This yarn is absolutely next to skin soft. One of the issues I do have with the pattern is the desired length of the body. In the pattern, it's marked 13.5 inches, but doesn't say from where. Is it from the bottom of the yoke? Is it from the cast on beneath the division for the arms? Is it from the collar? The top of the yoke? Based on fit to my kiddo, I've decided that the 13.5 inches is from the top of the collar, but I'm going to give it a little bit extra. It's currently about 7.5 inches from the armpit cast on, and I'll add another 2-inch rainbow just before the hem. That'll make it another 1.5 inches. The yarns I used for this project are all from Christy's yarn store. She dyes them all herself, including this incredible royal purple with some dark blue or black highlights in it. This is my main color for the sweater. It's a DK weight yarn, but it's 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, with 245 yards per 100 grams. I bought 2 skeins. My first contrast color, or in the rainbow, is this hot pink. I would almost call it Barbie pink, but Christy calls it Deuce. It's a light DK yarn and 100% superwash merino. It comes in at 274 yards per 100 grams, and I purchased 1 skein. My next contrast color in the rainbow is called Wisteria. It's this awesome light purple, almost like a lavender. This one is actually a light DK, and it's 100% superwash merino. 274 yards come in this 100 gram skein. I purchased 1. The next contrast color is this red. It's called Strawberry Sorbet. This one is a worsted weight yarn, but it was a mini skein and I was only going to use it really for the rainbow stripes, so I thought it would be fine. It is 100% superwash merino and comes in at 43 yards per 20 gram mini. The next contrast color is this cool orange. It looks a little more bright in person, and especially when paired with the yellow and the red. It's called Sherbert, and it's a DK weight 100% superwash merino, coming in at 54 yards per 20 grams. The fifth contrast color is called Lemony Snicket. It's a light DK, coming in at 100% superwash merino. 274 yards come in this 100 gram skein. I'm sure I'll get plenty of use because a lot of people in my house like bright colors. My sixth contrast color is Warm Waters. This is a worsted weight yarn, again, just for the rainbow stripes. I can use the rest of it for a hat. It's 100% merino wool and comes in at 218 yards per 100 grams. My seventh contrast color is actually the hearts. It's a DK weight yarn that comes in at 100% superwash merino. 54 yards came in this 20 gram mini. On to the new furniture. I've been looking for a rolling chest of drawers to store my pens and office supplies close to where I work, but I don't like buying things unless I can see them in store first. Since it's the new year, everywhere that carries storage has marked it for discount, and some places even let you stack coupons. Michael's had a sale, and every time I think I've learned my lesson, I go back and I learn it again. If nothing else so far, I've managed to learn never buy furniture unless it's on sale. I bought this rolling chest flat packed at about 40% off, bringing the price down to about $60. When I opened the package, all the parts were covered in a fine brown dust, likely from the original factory. Nothing what paper towel can't contain. There was a bit of a smell, but for a relatively temporary storage solution, I'm willing to put up with it. There's a similar chest from IKEA I've been eyeing, and I think I'll upgrade to that sometime in the future. This one will work for now, and holds my LaserJet printer and all of my pens well enough. Thanks for watching this episode of the KnitFi podcast. I hope you'll join me for episode 3, where hopefully I'll be wrapping up the last unicorn sweater and filling you in on some other crafty things that I managed to get myself into. Until then, follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as KnitFi. Until then, this has been the KnitFi podcast, bringing you 5 gigahertz of yarn.